Good morning, DC Public Schools and DC Human Resources. My name is Edwin James, and I'm a candidate for teacher for the DC Public School system. I wanted to bring you this morning a lesson upon cause and effect. That's my video, and the lesson is entitled Researching Causes and Effects. This lesson is applicable to grades 6 through 12, ages 11 through 18. It can be used in the middle school, high school level, and it can be used for high-functioning autism, special education students, and it can also be used for middle school, high school, emotionally disturbed kids. The subject area is English Language Arts. Normally this class period takes 2 50-minute time sessions, plus outside the classroom time is necessary considering homework or some research. But it's very minimal so that students can have a clear understanding of what cause and effect is. My lesson objective is that students will be able to differentiate cause from effect. This comes from Common Core State Standard 5 RL1. And in that overview, students will actively participate and appropriately discuss causes and effect. But of course, for time constraints and because of classroom limitations, and due to HIPAA laws, I'm not able to have children in here who have not signed permission slips. So I'm in here teaching with other staff who are here watching and as we go through the video, okay? So again, this is Common Core State Standard 5 RL1. Today we're researching causes and effect, okay? So I'm going to give a clear definition of what cause and effect is and how it's defined. It's used to show how the facts, events, or concepts result due to other facts, events, or concepts. And of course, there are signal words that tell us that we are in the area in a paragraph or sentence of a cause and effect. The signal words are for, because of, since, as a result of, due to, as a consequence of, the effect of, consequently, nevertheless, and if, then, and maybe. So first we're going to go over a sentence class, a few sentences to give us a clear understanding of what is a cause and what is effect, okay? So the first sentence, the first one that I passed out, it says, select the most likely cause for the following effect, okay? And the first sentence is, Stephen cut his finger, okay? That is the cause. Okay, or that is the effect. So what will be the cause? Okay, would it be that Stephen was walking outside? Could it be that Stephen was in the house eating pizza? Would it be that Stephen was outside running? Or would it be that Stephen picked up broken glass? What would be the cause of Stephen, of the effect, for the following effect that Stephen cut his finger? What is the cause? Well, of course, we wouldn't think that Stephen cut his finger while he was outside walking around. We know that Stephen was in the house eating pizza, but that may not be a reason why he cut his finger. And yesterday, Stephen was running. That gives no clear indication that Stephen cut his finger. But if Stephen picked up broken glass, that would definitely be a cause of Stephen cutting his finger. So, of course, we would look here. The cause, of course, would be Stephen picked up broken glass, and the effect would be is that he cut his finger. So I want to guide you through this next one. This next one is I want you to select the best possible effect for the cause. So let me help you, class, in guiding you through so that you will have a clear understanding of the difference between the cause and the effect. So this one we're looking for the effect. So what is the possible effect for this cause? Mark lost his key. What would be an effect for Mark losing his key? Okay, the cause is that Mark, of course, lost the key, okay? And what would be an effect? Would the effect be that he would be home late? Would it be that he would not be able to unlock the door? Would it be that he will buy a snack? Or he will get a haircut, okay? Mark losing his key would definitely not be related to him getting a haircut. Would it be related to him buying a snack? No. What would be the effect of him losing his key? Right, he would not be able to unlock the door, okay? So that is the effect for for the cause. Okay. Now, I want to go over these other sentences to guide you through and make sure you have a clear understanding. And I want to check for your understanding in cause and effect. So what I'm going to do, class, is I'm going to read a paragraph, okay, and we're going to give what the cause is and what are the effects of the cause. All right, so in the handouts that I've given you, and I don't like to use handouts all the time, but this is good for class purposes, especially when I'm checking for understanding. I want to make sure that my students are clear in their understanding of what we're teaching in the lesson. And of course, today's lesson again is cause and effect. So let's read this first paragraph. It says, in recent decades, cities have grown so large that now about 50% of the Earth's population lives in urban areas. There are several reasons for this occurrence. First, the increasing industrialization of the 19th century resulted in the creation of many factory jobs, which tended to be located in cities. These jobs, with their promise of a better material life, attracted many people from rural areas. Second, there were many schools established to educate the children of the new factory laborers. The promise of a better education persuaded many families to leave farming communities and move to the cities. And finally, for many people, when they moved to these factories and these facilities, made city life appear more interesting than life on the farm, and therefore it withdrew them from rural communities. Okay, so what is the effect of industrialization? All right, so industrialization is the cause. All right. So the cause is industrialization. So class, so that I can have, I'm checking for your understanding, and I want to guide you through the process so that we can have a clear understanding of what cause and effect is. The cause is industrialization. What are some of the effects, class, of industrialization? Now let me give you a 4-answer scenario. Was industrialization that people moved to rural communities, that people made less money, that theater became more popular, or that many jobs were created, factory jobs were created as a result of industrialization? Well, we know that people were not moving to rural areas because of industrialization, correct? Right, they were moving from rural areas to urban areas because of industrialization. There were many people that living on these farms that didn't have much money. And now that the cities were industrializing with cotton plants, with car production, with oil production, and even farming was moving to the city, so that people were buying their vegetables in the cities and their fruits and their meats rather than going to the farms because it was easier to get to. But there was also transportation benefits. But the main thing about the industrialization is that jobs were created. Okay. Now, in the fact that the cause is industrialization, jobs were created, there are other effects. What was another effect? Is that people's income rose, right? They were no longer rural or agrarian society. They were moving into an urban, industrialized society. Income grew. What else happened? Schools grew. Schools were created, so there's more income, more because of schools being built. Communities grew. Okay. Now, the cause of industrialization caused the effect where jobs were created, income increased, schools were produced, and communities grew. Now, of course, in today's world, in the 21st century, America is no longer the farming haven that it used to be. It used to be that America produced food for the whole world. Now we barely produce enough food to take care of our own country. A lot of our food, of course, comes from other lower third world, not lower, but third world countries such as Mexico and other places. And now what's happening is that, of course, we know that one of the effects of the one of the effects of people moving to the cities is that one of the causes of people moving to the cities cause another effect is that people now no longer produce food for the nation. Farms became places of just warehousing, places where people would leave tractors, places where people would no longer take the time to farm because farming was no longer considered a great occupation or a great employment. But for those who live on farms, even today, find they have more peace. Some live longer lives, and some are still producing for not only their cities, but for the country. So let's look at a second cause and effect scenario. Let's look at this hurricane scenario. Hurricanes begin when the weather conditions are just right for a cluster of thunderstorms to form over a tropical ocean. If such a cluster remains long enough, it organizes into a tropical depression with winds of up to 42 miles per hour. If a tropical depression increases to winds of 43 to 74 miles per hour, it is a tropical storm. A tropical storm is given a name and watched closely by satellite. So we always see hurricane, like we saw Hurricane Katrina, which started out as a tropical storm 10 years ago, but of course brought massive devastation to the southern part of our country. And every time when these names, they begin with A and they run through Z, and I don't know what the next name is for the next tropical storm, but I would like to find that out. But hopefully there'll be no tropical storms that affect our area this year. A tropical storm is given a name and watched closely by satellite to see if it gets worse and begins to have the telltale circular shape of a hurricane. So we already know that hurricanes become circular like this, like a whirlpool. And as they begin to flow over land, they have massive destruction. They tear down everything. They tear down houses. They lift up cars. The water becomes like a tidal wave. It knocks down jobs. It knocks down employment, factories. A hurricane is a very powerful storm. So it says if the air pressure continues to drop, the wind rises. It's almost like a funnel. And when the wind rises to above 75 miles per hour, a true hurricane is born. So class, which of the following causes weather forecasters say a storm has become a hurricane? Is it a cluster of thunderstorms over a tropical ocean, which happens all the time? If people go to the tropics, there's always storms going on in the ocean. Always. If you go to Hawaii, if you go to the Caribbean, if you go to the Mediterranean, any of these tropical areas, there's always thunderstorms out in the ocean. That's not the main problem. It says if a cluster begins to organize into a tropical depression, does that become a hurricane? Or is that when winds increase to over 75 miles per hour, does that become a hurricane? Or when winds increase to 23 to 42 miles per hour? Which one actually produces the hurricane? Correct, when the winds increase to over 75 miles per hour. So the hurricane is a cause, but it can also be an effect of rising winds. So let's use rising winds as the cause at 75 miles per hour. And what is the effect of those winds rising? The effect is a hurricane. And what is another effect of a hurricane, class? What else occurs? Even though it may not be discussed in this paragraph, what else is an effect of rising winds? Right, buildings destroyed, property damage. What else? Floods, right? And what is the main thing that happens that causes everybody to get upset when winds rise and hurricanes occur? Correct. Loss of life, which we don't like to see, but is often an occurrence when these hurricanes or tornadoes come. This is kind of like a tornado, but it's actually a hurricane is a huge wind. What happens is that loss of life occurs as a result of buildings falling down on people, of debris being thrown into people. What else happens is that the winds push cars on top of things. And then when you see the end of the hurricane, you see waters that may be 15 to 20 feet high. I know one time I was not in a hurricane, but when I went down to Norfolk, Virginia, when I was a kid, there was a hurricane that just passed through the coast. And when we got there, I was in the back of my parents' car with my brothers, and what happened? We couldn't get through the water because underneath the bridge, the water had risen to like 6 feet. My mother pleaded with my dad not to go through the water, but what did he do? He tried to drive through, and of course the car got stalled out. Mother starts screaming, dad starts getting upset. But it was a result of the hurricane and the rise in the flooding waters. We did get out, by the way. So the next question I want to ask you as we go through cause and effect, okay, I want to see if you can find one of the signal words in this next paragraph that I'm going to read, okay? The next paragraph says, natural predators such as snakes, seagulls, and raccoons are considered threats to the sea turtles, but human beings are considered to pose the greatest threat to sea turtles. People threaten the turtles if they disturb their nesting sites or harm the sea turtles at sea. Because of these dangers, the loggerhead sea turtle is considered threatened, okay? As you look at your handout, as your worksheet, where is the signal word in that paragraph? What is the signal word? Correct, it's because of these dangers or because of. So we went over the signal words earlier. There were 4, but the one that we heard in this sentence was because of, okay? So because of these dangers, the loggerhead sea turtle is considered threatened. So class, if human beings are posing a threat to the sea turtles, where do the sea turtles lay their eggs? Where do they lay their eggs? Do they lay them in the ocean? Or do they lay them on the earth? Where do they lay them at? No, they don't lay them in the ocean. The sea turtles lay their eggs in the sand. And they go, and the mother goes and digs a nest in the sand, and she drops her eggs in the sand, and she waits for an incubation time, and ultimately these eggs produce little turtles. And as soon as the turtles are born, what do? They don't go under the mother. They start going toward the water. First thing, as soon as the eggs hatch, the turtles start moving toward the water because that's their natural habitation. And so the sea turtles go to the water, but when man comes, what does he do? Man may walk over the eggs. Man may take a car across it. Man may pick up the eggs. They also have predators such as sea snakes who eat the eggs. Seagulls eat the eggs. And raccoons even go and eat the eggs of sea turtles if they can find them, because we know raccoons are like scavengers. They eat anything. And if a human gets attacked by a raccoon, it's a terrible thing. So at night, you always got to be careful when you're walking somewhere where there are trees or there's trash or debris. Raccoons are attracted to that. So the cause is that human beings are destroying the sea turtle, and they're destroying their eggs, and the effects is that the nesting sites are destroyed, and then they become endangered because there are no more sea turtles being born. Okay? So now let's take a look. Let's work at this together. We can work in groups. So I want to get a clear understanding that as I've guided you through the process of what is cause and effect. I want to ask this next question that we find on page 4. We're going to look at example number 5 on page 4, raisins and dried grapes. And let's see if we can pick out the cause and effect in this one. It says raisins are dried grapes. The sun dries the grapes and turns them into raisins. The drying process makes them sweeter. As the amount of water in the grapes decreases, the concentration of sugar increases. The sun dries out the grapes to a moisture level of 15% or less, and they become raisins. So what is the text structure here? The text structure is cause and effect. What is the cause? There are dried grapes, okay, and raisins. And what happens? What is the effect of the dried grapes and raisins? As they stay out in the sun, the drying process makes them sweeter. And of course, as the amount of water in the grapes decreases, the sugar increases. The sun dries out the grapes to a moisture level of 15% or less, and they become raisins. Okay? Another cause and effect question. Let's read this together. I'm going to read this to you, class, and you give me the answer of what is the cause or the effect. It says, opossums are strange creatures. Unlike most animals, they like to hold their food with all 4 feet. Their tails are long and flexible. Have you seen pictures of them hanging from tree branches by their tails? When an opossum hangs by its tail, it can grasp a peach with its 4 paws and enjoy a midnight snack. And of course, in our community, there are opossums that hang through trees. Sometimes you just don't see them. So what is the cause of the opossum hanging by their tails? So hanging possums. Okay, so what is the cause of the opossum hanging by his tail? Is he trying to avoid predators? Is he trying to eat a snack on all 4 paws? Is he trying to sleep? Is he trying to reach for food growing in the trees? Okay, in this paragraph, it says that he's trying to eat a snack using all 4 paws. But we do know that opossums, they do sleep hanging by their tails. Now, they do reach for food growing in the trees, and they do try to avoid predators by hanging in the trees in like a silent way. Okay. So one more cause and effect. As we go through this, I want you to point out to me which sentence from the passage shows cause and effect. Okay. On February 7th, 1867, Laura Ingalls was born in the Big Woods near Pepin, Wisconsin. She was the second daughter born to Charles and Caroline Ingalls. Do we know what story this comes from? What TV series is this about? Does anybody know? Okay, the TV series, of course, is, I forgot the name of it now. But we'll go on. Laura lived through a difficult period of history and overcame a variety of struggles. Yet through it all, she still managed, it's called Little House on the Prairie. She still managed to become a great and valuable author and learned about life on the frontier. Laura moved more than once in her life. In her early life, it was always by covered wagon. Laura's father was inspired by the Homestead Act of 1862, which made it possible to obtain 160 acres of land with certain provisions. With this in mind, he took his family to Montgomery County in Kansas and settled there. The land that they had settled on was technically Native American territory. So not long after they moved there, they were forced to move out. In 1871, they moved back to Wisconsin. In 1874, the family settled in Plum Creek, Minnesota, and lived there for several years. Later, the Ingalls moved to the town of DeSmet in Dakota Territory. They were the first settlers in the town. While here, the Ingalls once again attempted to get land through the provisions of the Homestead Act. They succeeded. And in 1886, Charles Ingalls officially had a farm of his own. The settlers of the frontier faced many challenges, including the threat of horrendous weather, starvation, plagues, and sickness. For example, in 1874, there was a giant grasshopper plague that swept in a Z shape across the lands of Oregon, Dakota Territory, Kansas, and Missouri. Lakes of grasshoppers 3 inches deep were not uncommon. The grasshoppers devoured everything around them. They ate the crops, the vegetables, clothing, and even each other. Many of the settlers had to leave the lands due to the plague. So which sentence from the passage shows cause and effect? If you look at your handout, does it say that Laura moved more than once in her life? Is that the cause and effect? Or is that later the Ingalls moved to the town of DeSmet in Dakota Territory? or the land that they had settled on was technically Native American territory, so not long after they moved there, they were forced to move out? Or was it that many of the settlers had to leave the lands due to the plague? What is the cause and effect? Okay, so many of the settlers had to leave their lands due to the plague. Okay, because of all the things that were going on, they left their land looking for better territory and better land. Okay, so the cause and effect is that the plague is the cause, and the effect is that people had to move and leave their lands to find better places. Okay, did Lord move more than once in their life? Yes, she did. Did the Ingalls move to the town of DeSmet in Dakota Territory? Yes, they did. But they moved as a result of all the things that were happening on the lands that they were trying to settle. They tried to settle in Native American territory, and they were forced to move out. Yes, that's also a cause and effect. They tried to settle in a place that was given to the Native Americans, and because of the laws of that day, they caused them to move out. So finally, they went on and they settled in Dakota Territory, and they were finally able to get their 160 acres of land. Okay. All right. So the next example of cause and effect, I want you to give me the cause of this effect. Okay. Let's read this together. I'll read it to you. You give me the cause. David Green is a man who works at a zoo. He helps train the animals for shows. He mostly works with chimps, tigers, and lions. He is a great trainer. David was working with the tiger to teach it how to jump through a ring of fire. 2 days later, the tiger learned how to jump through a ring of fire. David was finished, so he was going to put the tiger into its cage. David forgot to lock the gate, so the tiger got out. What was the cause of the tiger getting out? What's the cause? The effect, of course, we can know what could happen. Was the cause that David forgot to lock the gate? Or was the cause that the tiger jumped out? Or was the cause that the lock broke? Or the tiger got out? What was the cause of the tiger getting out? Correct. David forgot to lock the gate. How many times, class, do we forget to do something that's very important? And what could happen as a cause of the tiger getting out? Okay, there's a lot of things. The tiger gets out. The tiger's out. What could be some of the effects? The tiger, what's the first thing he's going to look for when he gets out? He's going to look for food, right? So he's going to go to a farm, and he's going to look for sheep, cattle, and he may be scared. So what's another effect is that people are going to go searching for him. Okay? And this happened not too long ago, I think in Philadelphia. I think at the Philadelphia Zoo, maybe 10 or 15 years ago, a lion got out. They did find him though. Okay, they're going to search for him. And if they're going to search for him, they're looking for him because he will not harm other people. He won't harm people, particularly children. Okay? And what's another effect is that while they're looking for him, they're going to tranquilize him, hopefully. Okay? They're not going to kill him, but if they have to kill him, they will kill him. So there's always many effects, and there's always a cause. Okay, let's give this cause, class, which we see sometimes in our school. What are some of the things we see in the school? We see fights, right? Mr. James has broken up about 4 or 5 fights this year. Okay, broke up a fight 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. 2 boys fighting over something very minor, very foolish, but they're fighting because one boy wants to prove his superiority over the other boy over something on their little on their communication on their phone. So, what's the cause of the fight? What's the effect? The effect is the fight. But what's the cause of it? Okay, young men feeling their manhood, 13 years old, trying to have something. So let's look here. The cause, the effect is the fight. What's another effect? The cause is that we have 2 boys fighting over words, fighting over kick, fighting maybe over girls, and students are looking at them, okay? So we got a cause is that 2 boys basically over words, okay? And the effect is that a fight. What's another effect of the fight? Okay, people get injured. What's another effect of the fight? Correct. Somebody gets suspended, or both boys get suspended. And then what's another effect of the fight? Okay, you have parental involvement. So parents are involved in the effect. So we have two boys fighting over words, on kick, on girls or students, and then the effect is there's a fight, someone's injured, someone's suspended, and then parents are involved. Okay? So there's always a cause and effect going on. All right, let me give you another scenario. So let me give you one more scenario before we close this video. Okay? All right, so class, listen to this. A cause and effect, and this is by another student who wrote this. It says, since no one signed up for the school talent show, the teachers decided to cancel it and try again next year. What is the cause of no one signing up for is the cause that no one signed up for the talent show? Is the cause that they canceled the talent show? Is the cause that they will try again next year? Or is that many kids signed up for the talent show? What's the cause in there? Correct. The cause is that no one signed up for the school talent show. So they had to cancel it, which is the effect, is because no one signed up, which was the cause. Okay? So this concludes my lesson, DC Public Schools and DC Human Resources. Again, my name is Edwin James. We covered today cause and effect. It was our lesson. It was under Common Core State Standard 5, RL1. I gave you an overview. I showed you guided practice, and I also checked for understanding. As I was teaching, I'm checking for understanding by asking questions and asking questions that lead them to the correct answer. Because they have a worksheet, they're able to look exactly at what I'm doing. So again, DC Public Schools and DC Human Resources, this is Edwin James. I want to thank you for this time. I look forward to teaching with you and working with you in the fall. Have a blessed day.